Hello again traders, Andrew Curry here, and if you go to my website you can sign up to my free trading newsletter. Now, I've had an interesting email from a trader about my Aussie CAD videos recently who's been asking this line here where we're saying, okay, well, we've drawn a line, but you can see sometimes the market pushed past a little bit, closed past a little bit, we've had big spikes past. Sure enough here, we don't really see it hitting that line and, reversing. How do we know where that line is? And I understand where he's coming from because, of course, I've drawn a line for simplicity to demonstrate the point. But as you can see from this line here, if we accept this as a line, okay, over here we closed past it. What happens in practice is that structure is not really an exact point. I like to think of structure more as a zone where we can come to expect to hit resistance to the price going further in whatever direction it's coming from. It's not really an exact point. And I understand where the trader's coming from because you appreciate, okay, the structure is here, the zones are here, but in the real world of trading, we have to build that into a trading plan where we say, we know when it hits this point, put our entry, our target, our stop loss on there. And of course, stop loss is a real issue because you're going to get these points where you say, well, okay, the structure zone's here. I put the stop loss, let's just for argument's sake say it's 10 pips above it. And sure enough, it spikes up 12 pips. We're all going to hit those trades. What I like to think of is if you've got this messiness in the real world of a zone and you don't want a massive stop loss to accommodate the whole of this massive zone, where we're going to see support and resistance. So like I say, up here we see resistance to going any higher. Here we see support preventing us from going any lower. But overall, if we risk this getting a bit messier, we've seen a zone sort of here. Let's do it a different color. But this is a zone where we're going to expect to find support and resistance. So the answer as to how do you cope with the real world of trading versus the messiness of having a zone rather than an actual point at which we're going to see this resistance. The way I look at it is, and some of my videos recently I've been looking at double tops, which is in effect basically just look at a zone where we're hitting resistance to going any higher. And the same for a double bottom in reverse. So if we look here, we basically have a double top here. Right? So what we can do is we can anchor it in a set of rules. So one of the reasons why we have such exact rules for a double top is we say, okay, if this is our double top, we've had this strong bullish move which has stopped here, right? Draw a line at the close there, and that is your point where you say, I'm going to use the close as a judge. Okay, so hence we have the reversal. And if you remember from my double top videos, we have the reversal, we have the retest of this zone. And my rule is we must at least touch the highest close, but not close above the highest high. So what I've done there is I've built the idea of, sort of somewhere in here there's a zone into rules where I anchor what I do. Okay, that might sound a little bit confusing at first. But essentially what you're doing is you're trying to take a little bit of a messy, chaotic situation and anchor it in your rules. So by taking the first leg here and saying, there's the close, I'm going to use that as my judge, and there's the high, I'm going to use that as my judge. And as long as the second test hits the highest close but doesn't close above the highest high, I say valid double top. Okay, so in a messy situation of, here's a structure zone, okay, but look at how this candle here spiked way past it. Where's the point? Anchor it as best you can in a rule in your back testing and eventually your actual trading. So like I say, the most recent close can be a good idea. If you look recently, I think in the last video I did, if we just put it here, I think that's where the market was when I recorded it, because we were going to look for a reversal. And what I said was the close of here might be a good point to have a rule to say, I want to retest the close of the lowest point. Okay, so that might sound like quite a lot to get your head around now, but structure is not really an exact point, more like a zone. But if we can anchor in something like the most recent close and build a set of rules, you might find that you get quite significant way there to what the trader is kind of asking for. Exact points, exact rules. And the problem with having rules is sometimes you're going to have trades that look good, almost qualify as trades, but they miss the rules by a few pips. No, anchor in your rules.